Our top story now, the Delhi heat and water crisis. It's been a hot, blistering June in North India with record-breaking temperatures and no respite in the night either. In fact, there have been, maximum, minimum temperatures being recorded. There have been 15 recorded deaths as well, reported by government hospitals in Delhi. The government has now ordered that hospitals have heatwave units and prioritize heat stroke patients. And in the midst of all this, water wars as well, with a water shortage crisis in the national capital. The BJP took to the streets today attacking the AAP government over freebies, while Water Minister Atishi has written to the Prime Minister to intervene.
52-year-old Sharda lives in a shanty outside Safdarjung Hospital in Delhi. Her home, out in the open, gives little protection from the relentless heat. Sharda and her family have been living here for the past 15 years with no electricity or even a reliable water supply. This as the capital reels under a scorching heat wave where 45-degree temperature feels like 50 degrees.
मेरे हस्बैंड की फागुन के महीना में 11 तारीख को रात को एक्सपायर हो गई यहीं बस स्टैंड पे। बिजली के भी मुश्किल है बेटा, कि यहाँ मीटर हीटर नहीं है कुछ भी, और पानी की भी परेशानी है। फिर अपने पीने के लिए उधर उधर से लाते हैं भर के, गुजारा करते हैं अपना, जैसा करते हैं तैसे।
Sharda's story is not an isolated one.
यहाँ हम अपना इलाज कराने आए हैं, अपना नाना श्री के इलाज कराने आए हैं। मेरा यहाँ अच्छा से इलाज हो रहा है, लेकिन फिर भी यहाँ इतना धूप पड़ने बहुत कष्ट हो रहा है। यहाँ रहते हुए जिंदगी बचाने के मरता क्या नहीं करता है वो, इसलिए।
The killer heat wave has already claimed several lives in Delhi.
Well, the mortality rate from heat stroke is very high. It is almost 60 to 70%. There is definitely a lack of awareness, right? Many of the patients are illiterate also, they're poor also. And a lot of these patients that come to us, they are laborers, migrant laborers.
And to add to that is a punishing water crisis where citizens suffer, and the issue has triggered daily protests and a political face-off. Delhi BJP marched with mud cars to the Delhi Jal Board office demanding answers from the Delhi Jal Board. Delhi Water Minister Atishi, on the other hand, has written to the Prime Minister seeking his intervention in getting surplus water from Haryana, or else she has threatened to sit on a hunger strike.
21 तारीख तक दिल्ली वालों को अपने हक का पानी नहीं मिलता। अगर दिल्ली में 28 लाख से ज़्यादा लोग इस तरह बूंद बूंद पानी के लिए तरसते रहे, तो फिर 21 तारीख से मुझे पानी के लिए सत्याग्रह शुरू करना पड़ेगा।
हमने जल बोर्ड के अधिकारियों को 24 घंटे का अल्टीमेटम दिया है कि 24 घंटे के अंदर जहां-जहां क्षेत्र की समस्याएं आ रही हैं वहां पानी पहुंचाएं, अन्यथा इनका घेराव दोबारा किया जाए।
Delhi is enduring an unprecedented dual challenge of scorching heat wave and an acute water shortage crisis. However, it is really these people living in these tents on the pavement who are doubly disadvantaged. What remains the broader question is that what is the way out of such climate change conditions, and when will the politics of water give way to a solution?
In Delhi, with Kamal Kant, Sachin Gupta, Tanushka Datta, Ishika Verma for NDTV.
Well, let's go across to Tanushka for more. And the capital dealing with this double whammy of water, a crisis and a heat wave, an unrelenting heat wave, Tanushka. Now the government ordering that hospitals must have heat wave units in place to deal with the many patients who are now coming in.
Right, yes, exactly. The only hospital as of now in Delhi that has a special heat stroke and heat care unit is at the center-run RML hospital. But as per the guidelines that have just come in by the Ministry of Health, by Union Minister JP Nadda, it states that all government-run hospitals should open up with heat wave and heat stroke special care units. The advisory is also mentions key points, other points such as implementation of action plans for heat-related illnesses. This includes following of guidelines and also spreading awareness of such guidelines that are in place, such as the National Disaster Management Authority's guidelines on the prevention and management of heat waves. Then Union Minister JP Nadda has also called for state-wise action plans for heat-related management, and also climate change and human health management plans. So these are some action plans that right now the Union Health Ministry is asking for on a sort of a ground report they're asking for. Even on daily basis, the Union Ministry has asked not just states but also districts to give out daily reports of heat-related illnesses, the patients that are coming into these government hospitals with heat-related illnesses, the heat stroke deaths that have happened, and specifically a total tally of the number of heat deaths from March 1st of this year. Ever since, this entire heat wave situation has been grappling the whole of North India. So these are some really key points that the advisory from the Union Ministry that has come out, and what is also asked for is, of course, to treat these heat-related patients on priority basis, to keep them on first priority, their treatment on first priority. What we also know is that there is lack of awareness on such heat-related illnesses, because it's difficult to identify whether it's a heat stroke or, just a general sense of dehydration. So in these cases, it is important that awareness is spread moreover on these sort of issues. And whoever steps out in the heat, in the sun outside, must not perform in strenuous activities. And the health advisory also says not to step out from 12 p.m. until 3 p.m., which is when the sun is overhead and at its peak. So these are some advisories that have been issued to somehow manage right now the health, the heat wave related issues right now.
That's right. It's very difficult to categorize death sometimes as heat-related, but important measures taken by the government. Thanks so much, Tanushka. And speaking of climate change and the heat wave, which is being felt in the hills of Uttarakhand as well, and a massive fire has broken out in the Haldwani Tanda forest. Remember, Uttarakhand has been seeing several forest fires since the onset of the summer months, and traffic now on the highway to Delhi from there has been shut due to security concerns. The Forest Department, Fire Brigade and police are at the spot. Recently, 4 forest employees had died when they were en route to take on a forest fire, and therefore these security precautions are being taken. In other news, the government today approved the minimum support price of 14 Kharif crops. This cabinet decision announced by Union Minister Ashwini Vaishnav after the meeting of the cabinet took place. He said that the farmers will get around 2 lakh crore now as MSP.
खरीफ सीजन स्टार्ट हो रहा है. खरीफ सीजन के लिए 14 क्रॉप्स पे मिनिमम सपोर्ट प्राइस आज कैबिनेट ने अप्रूव किया है. Every crop that I am going to read out will have at least 50% more MSP compared to the cost. धान का नया MSP पैडी का नया MSP खरीफ के लिए 2,300 rupees डिक्लेयर किया गया है, which is 117 rupees increment over the previous MSP.
Well, to talk more about the announcements, let's go across to Sunil Prabhu, who's been tracking the cabinet meeting. And Sunil, so the announcement as expected on MSP, what else was announced?
So apart from that, as you rightly pointed out, a number of infrastructure projects, one of course relating to Maharashtra, the Wadhwan port, 76,200 crores. It's a greenfield project, and it will be done in 2 phases with the PPP model with JNPT as well as the Mumbai Maritime. That's one. The other one, of course, relates to the Prime Minister's constituency, Varanasi, which is a real international circuit. That is now reached its peak, so another 2,800 crores which will be given for that. And then, apart from the MSP, which we already heard the minister speak, they have done for wind energy 2 offshore projects, one in Gujarat, the other in Tamil Nadu, which they planned, which will give 1 gigawatt, which is going to be a huge, big thrust in terms of which various other countries like USA, UK, France have been doing. We are using the potential of the sea to get wind energy, and that's another big exercise. And of course, the other one being the forensic university, in line with the criminal bills that have come up. New universities being set up, something that was a requirement that needed to be done.
All right, Sunil, thanks so much for joining us with those details. So several announcements there made after the cabinet meeting. Well, news now coming in from Tamil Nadu, and at least 5 people have died after consuming illicit liquor. This is in the Kalakurchi district, and 14 other people are undergoing treatment. Blame game has also broken out with EPS and Annamalai both blaming the ruling DMK for failure. Let's go across to Sam Daniel now for more. And Sam, what is the latest that you can share with us?
Gargi, we can confirm at least 5 have died after consuming illicit liquor, and 26 others who are suspected to have taken this are being treated. 18 have been moved to the Jipmer hospital in neighbouring Puducherry, 8 to the Salem Medical College Hospital and 2 to Thiruvannamalai. A medical team is also rushing to Kalakurchi. The State Health Minister is rushing there, and 1 bootlegger has been arrested, suspected bootlegger, and 3 others are also being interrogated. And the state government has said that these people are suspected to have consumed what they call as pocket rack. And this has come as a huge embarrassment to the ruling DMK in Tamil Nadu, because only last year 22 people had died consuming at that time what the government called as methanol. And this time too, after the forensic examination, authorities say methanol is also present in this case. And heads have started rolling. The SP has been suspended, the collector has been transferred, besides suspension of the DSP in charge of Enforcement Directorate, 3 inspectors and 3 sub-inspectors. And the opposition leader, AIADMK Chief Edappadi Palaniswamy, has said the ruling DMK has failed to learn any lessons even after the tragedy last year, and he has asked the government not to play with words calling it as a methanol tragedy, but to get to the root of it and curb the illicit liquor menace. And BJP Chief Annamalai has said the state government has failed to learn lessons even after the Hooch tragedy last year. Chief Minister M.K. Stalin is yet to comment on this, but a government statement says the case has now been transferred to the CBCID.
All right. Thanks so much, Sam, for joining us there with the latest very tragic 5 deaths due to illicit liquor. News now from Mumbai, where the 2 factions of the Shiv Sena are celebrating the Foundation Day. It's the 58th Foundation Day for the Shiv Sena, and both factions, that's one Eknath Shinde's and then Uddhav Thackeray's, have organized separate events. And given that assembly elections are just around the corner, the celebrations are, of course, show of strength. And Uddhav Thackeray, Shiv Sena, very buoyant after its performance in the recent Lok Sabha elections. Well, let's go across to Radhika now for more. And Radhika, very important for both the factions to project, their strength, and, especially since we're going into state elections in a few months.
That's right. 2 significant events happening in Mumbai today. This is Shiv Sena Foundation Day. One event being celebrated by Eknath Shinde Sena and another by Uddhav Sena. In fact, I'm standing outside where Uddhav Sena event is happening. MPs, MLAs, party functionaries at both the events, parallel events, which is certainly a show of strength of sorts and a showdown of sorts. And it does gain significance because this comes just after Lok Sabha election results and ahead of assembly elections in Maharashtra. As far as Uddhav event is concerned, of course, there is a sense of optimism there, certainly buoyant, and also this has given them an impetus. The fact that they had shown a victorious performance has given them an impetus for the assembly elections. The fact that MVA won 30 out of 48 seats, almost 31 out of 48 seats, has given them a boost of sorts, which is what is being said by Uddhav Sena leaders as well. Sanjay Raut is speaking at the moment. Uddhav will address in just a bit. As far as Eknath Shinde is concerned, there is a sense of confidence, of course, because as far as the entire Mahayuti equation goes, Eknath Shinde did have a good strike rate when compared to BJP as well as the NCP from Mahayuti. So at this point, there is a lot of confidence and optimism, and this is a prestige battle. What we saw, in Lok Sabha was a prestige battle for Uddhav Sena. It had lost both the symbol and the party name. Despite that, it came out victorious. In a sense, them telling the state, them telling people that, people of the country, people of the state know who the real Sena is. That's the kind of messaging that Uddhav Sena had been giving ever since the election results came out. As far as Eknath Shinde is concerned, they feel that there had been, wrong narrative set by the opposition in terms of Mahayuti wanting to change the constitution, NDA wanting to change the constitution, which sort of backtracked, backfired for them. However, they are, all set for assembly elections, both of them pretty confident, pretty optimistic. Two shows of strength happening at this point. Whether, this will translate in towards whether the internal discontent that's there within MVA and Mahayuti, whether that will be decimated, whether that will disappear, all that remains to be seen. But today, of course, this is a day of celebration for both the Senas, but remains to be seen how the, days ahead will be just before assembly elections.
All right, so two competing Shiv Sena celebrations there, celebrating the Foundation Day. Moving on to news now from Jammu and Kashmir, and Prime Minister Modi will be celebrating this year's International Day of Yoga. That's on the 21st of June on the banks of the Dal Lake in Srinagar. As many as 3,000 to 4,000 people are expected, and he will arrive in Srinagar tomorrow evening. Ahead of that, tight security in Srinagar as well as in Jammu and Kashmir. In fact, counter-terrorism forces launched a crackdown against terror-related activities. Let's go across to Nazir now for more. So Nazir, preparations in Srinagar, it's the Prime Minister's first visit after taking charge as Prime Minister for the third time, and a crackdown on terror.
Well, exactly. All the preparations are almost completed, and the people who will be joining the Prime Minister to celebrate Yoga Day in Srinagar on the banks of Dal Lake at Sri Kashmir International Convention Center, those names have been finalized, who all are joining. They include doctors, professionals, everybody from the society who have been called us to join this event. It is going to be a mega event, rather first event since the G20 meeting in Srinagar, major event in Srinagar. So after election, we see Prime Minister coming here. This election was a record of sorts when it comes to people participating in democratic process, and now people are waiting for assembly election, as Prime Minister himself during the election campaigning has promised that besides holding elections, the government will restore the statehood of Jammu and Kashmir, which was snatched from it on 5th of August 2019. We'll have to see what, other than the yoga, what Prime Minister is going to do. There are development projects, there are, interaction with the startups, entrepreneurs, spokespersons, and all that. There are a host of things Prime Minister is doing here. But the larger message is, while there are, maybe some attacks in the Jammu region, particularly militant attacks on the security forces and terror attacks on Yatris, or in the valley, on the banks of Dal Lake, Prime Minister himself leading the country to celebrate 10th International Yoga Day. Last year, Prime Minister had celebrated it at the United Nations headquarters in New York, and this year he has chosen to celebrate 10th International Yoga Day in Srinagar. Clearly a big message from Prime Minister when he will arrive, and already the weather is so pleasant. It may be heat wave in the rest of the country, but here in Srinagar, it is raining this time. Very cool temperatures here.
All right, Nazir, rubbing it in. Yes, we're in the midst of a heat wave as you're enjoying the weather over there. But thanks so much for joining us there with the preparations for the Prime Minister's visit. In other news, a delegation of U.S. lawmakers, including former Speaker Nancy Pelosi, today met exiled Tibetan spiritual leader, the Dalai Lama, in Himachal Pradesh's Dharamshala. Now, the unprecedented meeting facilitated by India angered Beijing, which urged the U.S. to recognize the anti-China and separatist nature of the Dalai clique and warned against wrong messaging. But in allowing this meeting, was India also sending a message to China? A bipartisan delegation of U.S. lawmakers meeting the Dalai Lama in Dharamshala at the headquarters of the Tibetan government in exile. The unprecedented visit facilitated by India. The U.S. group gave an assurance that President Biden will soon sign the Resolve Tibet Act, aimed at enhancing U.S. support for resolving the Tibet dispute with China.
His Holiness the Dalai Lama, with his message of knowledge and tradition and compassion and purity of soul and love, he will live a long time and his legacy will live forever. But to you, President of China, you'll be gone and nobody will give you credit for anything.
The delegation also said they would not let China decide on the Dalai Lama's successor.
And I tell our Chinese friends this message is for you because you're waiting for this Dalai Lama to die. They are not bothered about the living 14th Dalai Lama, but they are more concerned about the yet to come 15th Dalai Lama to use the reincarnation as a political tool.
But allowing the visit by the US group on Indian soil, a not so subtle message to China. The Modi government making it clear to the Chinese that non-resolution of the boundary crisis can result into many thorny issues coming to the fore. The Chinese embassy in India already had a sharp reaction. They posted, "We urge the US side to fully recognize the anti-China separatist nature of the Dalai group, honor the commitments the US has made to China, stop sending the wrong signal to the world." The Dalai Lama, who will be visiting the US soon for medical treatment, had a message of peace.
We should take care of this world. World, irrespective of what a religion, what a tradition.
In recent months, there have been attempts to normalize strained ties with China, but this visit could lead to a backlash. Gargi Rawat for NDTV. And finally, speaking at the infrastructure catalyst for India's future event by CRISIL, Gautam Adani, chairman Adani Group, said by the year 2032, India is set to become a $10 trillion economy and that the cumulative spend on infrastructure alone will exceed $2.5 trillion. He also says about 25% of the entire spending will be on energy transition.
And like I said, in my view, the single most important catalyst enabling this takeoff has been the quality of governance that we have witnessed over the past decade, and the metrics speaks for themselves. India's fiscal investment has doubled from 1.6% of GDP to 3.3% of GDP. Corporate income tax rates have fallen from 30% to 22%, creating a headroom for corporates to invest. And the current account deficit fell from 3.5% of GDP to 0.8% of GDP. These outcomes are fundamentally rooted in this government effectiveness in institutionalizing policy for transforming our nation's landscape from one of the challenges to one of possibilities. And the results are visible to all. While every conventional infrastructure sector continues to show strong growth, the two emerging ones that I am most excited about are: one, infrastructure to enable energy transition, and second, digital infrastructure. And both of these areas are fast converging
and reshaping the landscape of sustainability to create unprecedented market opportunity. The rapid shift to renewable energy sources, coupled with the digitizations of industries, is not just a technological evolution, but also a profound transformation of our entire society. As many of you know, in the case of India, our country aims to install 500 gigawatts of renewable energy capacity by 2030. This ambitious target will require annual investment of over $150 billion. The transition to green energy in India is expected to generate millions of new jobs in a sector such as solar and wind, energy storage, hydrogen and its derivatives, EV charging stations, as well as grid infrastructure development.
With that, time for us to slip into a short break. Coming up on the other side, a closer look at the water crisis in the capital amidst the punishing heat, and also, is a realistic pricing of water the solution to the crisis faced in many of our cities? Stay with us.